play in one of these early season tournaments, not even early season, before the season tournaments. How nice is that, especially with a young team or a new team largely?
Yeah, I mean, then the maybe negative against it is we'll have 16 practices, which with a bunch of new guys, we're trying to get a lot of stuff in that amount of time, or maybe not a lot of stuff, but just enough stuff in, to be able to go out and play. But I really like it. Players like to play games more than they like to practice, by and large. And so it gives us a couple games to measure ourselves against, two really good programs early in the season. And, there's even times in the past that we've played that opening weekend game, and now you get exposed to some things that maybe you hadn't been aware of, either good or bad for your group, and you really want time to fix it. But then you have a game on Tuesday, and then you have a game on Friday, and they just keep rolling in the preseason. So the setup of this, I think, is really good, and the fact that it's 2 extra games. There's, I think, 14 days in between our first game and our third game of the year, and so just looking forward to the start and the way the schedule falls.
Trey, being able to go down to Civic for these always big-time opponents down there, how fun is that to open the season instead of, you could open with anybody, but having big opponents like that in what should be a good atmosphere in Civic, how nice is that?
It's definitely a great opportunity. Like Coach said earlier, I'm one of 2 returners, so Jack and I have got a little bit of a revenge game with Minnesota State, so looking forward to that, but just want to go get at somebody, really.
What's that been like with you and Jack back, but nobody else back? So what's that been like this year? Even last year with the coaching change and everything, you guys returned a lot of guys. So what's that been like this year, kind of getting to know your new teammates?
It's been interesting. Obviously, Jack and I have been having to lead quite a bit, but that's been good for us. But like Coach said, a lot of learning and just getting everybody on the same page.
Trey, take us into this offseason, man. We're going along with this one of 2 returners. Has this been different, an offseason different for you as being the guy that's kind of carrying the torch here for the guys that are coming back, with Jack? What's this offseason been like for you? Has it been any different than in years past?
Yeah, I think, like I said, just the biggest thing is having to be a leader on this team, which is not something I'm shying away from, but it's kind of come naturally, I'd say, but it's still challenging at times, trying to check myself so that I can keep other guys rolling, stuff like that.
I think Jack and Trey, have naturally always been lead by example guys, and so the next step is lead by their voice. Mm-hmm. And they're doing a good job of that. As a coach, I'd still love it even more, but what happens sometimes is because it's not always constant, when we do hear from those guys are like dialed in, to what they're saying. And so they've both done a nice job here, going through, our second, preseason and having a little bit better feel on, some of the things we're trying to accomplish and share those with the guys, and I just feel like certainly that we're ahead of where we were this time last year.
Trey, what's impressed you? What stood out to you about the new guys and your new teammates? What's kind of stood out in these practices?
I think just that everyone's pretty willing to learn. We know that we have like a super new group, 13 new guys, so everyone's been open, asking questions, so I think that's been impressive just for a new group of guys.
Coach, with 2 players coming back, and this starting to be more of the norm in the transfer portal era where you're having guys leave probably more often than you had in years past. What's that like for you as a coach? Just having 2 guys come back, a little different situation with this, obviously, but as we transition into this day and age of college basketball, what's that like as a coach with really not knowing what the roster is going to look like from year to year, but relying on 2 guys to really kind of fuel a roster that you have so many newcomers coming into?
Yeah, I think that's where Northwest as a community, as an athletic program, does have an advantage, whether you talk about administration or even our weight room coaches or, obviously, people, our staff in there, is that the culture of the place is felt and it's real. And so words that we use quickly go from words on the board or words on the wall to guys in our program understand that those are things that we're about in that way. There's definitely a sense of urgency in that way because, in the past where you may have 4 years or 5 years to impact a player or their life or have them impact your program, it may be a 9-month deal now, and we can be frustrated by that at times, and we certainly are at times because we'd love to have guys for longer or whatever, or we can lean into it, embrace it, and coach the ones that are here for the time that we're here. So a lot more urgent. I think it is an advantage that Northwest can have through our community and our culture, but certainly one that we got to be very intentional about.
Coach, you obviously knew more about these players than Trey did before he saw them in Maryville, but what stood out seeing them on the floor together, and kind of the same thing I asked Trey, just what's kind of impressed you or stood out about this group so far?
I think our group complements each other pretty well in strengths and making up for different things and weaknesses. It's a group that certainly fits our play style a little bit more than maybe it did with last year's group, which makes sense. That's logical in that way. And we've done some culture things and leaned into even a book study that we did. But one of those things is great people make great Bearcats. And so while none of our guys are perfect or none of our coaching staff is perfect, we certainly are always on the hunt for guys that are good people and good dudes. And when you get the right guys in the locker room, it's easier to try to build some team and try to build some camaraderie and try to build some gel and all that stuff. So I would say that's probably the number one thing that I've noticed with this year's group.
Trey, what stood out about the book study? Tell us about the book.
Like Coach said, it's about being good people. One of the ideas or chapters is to sweep the sheds, so we don't want really anybody else to have to take care of us. So pick up the locker room, pick up opposing locker rooms, pick up the bench, and just do what you can in the community. I feel like a lot of times we're asked to help people. We may be busy, but it's kind of our job to do it. So
one of my favorite chapters, there were several good parts, was about and I think it's really applicable, leaving the jersey better than you found it. So being very aware of the groups that came before us, and whether that's, I've talked to Coach Sin this summer, Coach Tapmeyer has done a great job of staying in touch with me, Coach McCollum's group, and but then taking the baton from each of those groups and then riding our own part of the journey, however that is, but and then handing it on to the next group after that. And so just the idea of the jersey is in a great spot when we got it, not only certainly in wins, losses, but also in off the floor stuff. And so let's be a part of that and then continue to hand it on to the next group.